All right, so we got to talk about this whole Hunter Biden pardon thing. It's something else, isn't it? I mean,
It really is.
the president pardoning his own son
Yeah.
for tax evasion and gun charges? I mean, come on, it's got to raise some eyebrows.
Oh, absolutely. It's definitely unprecedented.
And then on top of all that,
Yeah.
you've got the judge in the tax case, Judge Scalzi, basically straight up calling out the president on his justification for the pardon.
Yeah, no, he didn't hold back.
It's like, whoa, this is some serious constitutional drama playing out right in front of us.
I know, right? Almost like a law school exam come to life, you know?
Totally. So for our deep dive today, we're going to break down this whole saga.
Okay, sounds good.
We'll look at the details of Hunter Biden's legal troubles, the reasoning behind the pardon, Judge Scalzi's response, and what it all means for, well, everything.
The separation of powers, judicial independence, all that fun stuff.
Exactly. So to start, let's just recap what landed Hunter Biden in hot water in the first place.
Right. So essentially, he pleaded guilty to 2 misdemeanor tax offenses
Oh, okay.
for failing to pay over $1 million in taxes.
Wow, over $1 million. That's
Yeah, $1.4 million to be exact. And this was for income earned between 2014 and 2019.
so like a significant chunk of time.
Right. And in addition to that, he was also facing a separate charge for illegal possession of a firearm.
Oh, right. I remember that.
Yeah, so he'd purchased a handgun back in 2018, but lied on the federal forms, claiming he wasn't using drugs at the time, which was, well,
Yeah.
not true, no. So that's the background on the legal issues. Now, enter President Biden with the pardon.
Right. And his justification for the party was essentially that Hunter's tax issues and the gun thing were directly tied to his struggles with drug addiction.
Mm-hmm.
He was basically saying that Hunter was in a really bad place and not thinking clearly.
Yeah, and there was also that suggestion that Hunter was being unfairly targeted, like he was being singled out for prosecution because he was the president's son.
Right, right. That whole angle.
Yeah, so that's the president's side of things. But then Judge Scalzi comes in with his rebuttal, and things get, well, interesting.
Yeah, interesting is one word for it. I mean, he really went after the president's claims.
He did. So first off, he pointed out that Hunter Biden had actually admitted to not paying taxes even after he got sober.
Oh, really? So even when he was presumably thinking clearly and back on track.
Exactly. And Scalzi also highlighted that Hunter had the financial means to pay the taxes during that time, so it wasn't just a matter of him being broke or whatever.
Okay, so that kind of pokes holes in the whole addiction-fueled explanation.
Right. And as for the singled out argument, Scalzi basically shut that down too.
How so?
Well, he pointed out that that very same argument had already been considered and rejected by multiple judges, including Scalzi himself, during the course of the case.
Oh, wow. So it's not like this was some new revelation or anything.
Not at all. And it wasn't just what Scalzi said, it was how he said it.
Oh, yeah. The tone was definitely pointed.
You could say that. I mean, he accused the president of trying to rewrite history.
Yeah.
And even went so far as to suggest that Biden was basically calling all the federal officials who worked on the case unreasonable people for doing their jobs.
Which is like, whoa, strong words.
Definitely. So yeah, the whole thing really raises some questions about, like you said, separation of powers and judicial independence.
Right. Like, how much leeway does a president have when it comes to pardons? Can a judge just come out and say, hey, I don't agree with this?
Yeah, it's tricky. And then on top of all that, there's also the outcome of the gun case, which adds another layer of complexity to this whole thing.
Okay, so remind me, what happened with that? I know the judge terminated the proceedings, but I don't quite remember the specifics.
Right. So the judge in that case also decided to end the proceedings, but it's interesting how he did it.
Okay.
Because, see, Hunter Biden's attorney had actually requested a dismissal of the charges,
Mm-hmm.
but the special counsel, Vice, argued for what's called a termination.
And that's like a legal distinction that actually matters.
Oh, yeah, it does. A dismissal usually means that the case itself had problems, like maybe it was improperly brought or there wasn't enough evidence.
Okay.
But a termination suggests that while the case itself might have been valid, there are now other circumstances that make continuing it unnecessary.
So in this case, the judge siding with the special counsel and choosing termination over dismissal.
Yeah.
What does that tell us?
Well, it kind of suggests that, legally speaking, there was enough to charge Hunter Biden.
Okay.
But for whatever reason, maybe because of the pardon or other factors, it just didn't make sense to continue the case.
I see. So it's not like the judge was saying Hunter was innocent, but rather that for practical purposes, the case was over.
Exactly.
Man, this whole situation is really a tangled web, isn't it?
Yeah, it definitely highlights the power of presidential pardons and also the potential for conflict when different branches of government have different views on how that power should be used.
Totally. Like, it makes you think, is this just a unique case with all its personal and political baggage? Or does it point to a bigger issue with the way pardons work in our system?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Like, how do we balance the need for mercy and second chances with the need for accountability and fairness?
Right. Because on the one hand, the power to pardon is important. It can be used to right wrongs, to offer forgiveness, to give people a fresh start.
Definitely.
But, like you said, any power can be abused. And when it comes to something as high stakes as a presidential pardon, the potential for controversy is always there.
Yeah, especially in cases like this where there's so much public scrutiny and where the person being pardoned is, related to the president.
Exactly. It's a tough issue with no easy answers.
It really is.
Well, I think we've done a pretty good job of unpacking this whole thing, at least for now.
Yeah, I guess so.
And it's something that I'm sure will continue to be debated and discussed for a long time to come.
Oh, absolutely.
And, it's something for all of us to think about, too. Like, what do we believe about the power of pardons? Where do we draw the line between mercy and accountability? These are big questions,
They are.
but they're questions worth asking. And hopefully this whole Hunter Biden situation, as messy as it is, can at least spark some productive conversations.
I agree. Hopefully, it makes people more aware of these issues and encourages them to think critically about the balance of power in our government.
Exactly. Well, on that note, I think we'll wrap things up here.
Sounds good.
Thanks for joining me on this deep dive. It's been enlightening, to say the least.
It has been.
And to everyone listening, thanks for tuning in.
Yeah, thanks for listening.
And we'll see you next time for another deep dive into, well, whatever the news throws our way next.
Sounds good to me.
All right, take care.
You too.